A Problem of Four by Imagination Junkyard. Chapter 4. 4. Charging for a moblin, Blue ducked low and swung his sword. As much as it killed him to bring a damaged weapon into battle, a boomerang wouldn't do much good here, and there wasn't a good high ground to use a bow and arrow. The blade dragged along the monster's leg, tearing into the skin and eliciting an enraged squeal. Blue wasted no time in spinning around to hit the moblin again before jumping high, sword raised for a downward strike. Help! Ah! Green's plan to ask Legend for help, mending their sword, fizzled out as he found himself bearing down upon a moblin, sword in hand. The strike certainly wasn't as strong as it would have been had he initiated it, and he landed awkwardly, almost losing his balance. He decided to just use the wobble to throw himself into a dodge roll, making some space between him and the enemy. A battle? Since when? Jumping out of the way of another attack, his eyes flicked across the field. The captain looked well in his element with this many monsters advancing. Wild had somehow landed on the shoulders of a moblin and was using those few moments to notch some arrows and shoot down a Lizalfos that was rushing towards Hyrule. He jumped away again from another attack and refocused, spinning with a shout to strike the moblin with enough force to have it jerking back. He thrust his blade into it and sprinted past it as it dissolved, eyes locked into a Stalfos that was trying to get the jump on Twilight. The bony soldier noticed Green's approach and threw up its shield right as his blade came down at it. Metal hit metal with a resounding clang, the sensation ringing right through Green's skull. Red winced in pain, stumbling a little as he found himself on his feet, not in town, and he barely raised his sword in time to block a Stalfos' blade. Pain blossomed in his head as he staggered back from the force. Pushing all his weight onto his blade, his gaze darted around. Everyone seemed just as occupied, so he pulled back and dropped low, letting the Stalfos stumble forward awkwardly as it suddenly lost what was pushing all of its weight against. Swinging his sword at the skeleton's legs, he knocked it off its feet and dealt a finishing blow to the crumbling bones. "Why are we in the middle of a battle? This is a terrible idea," he thought, yelping as he only barely danced out of the way of a bocoblin's swing at his club at him. He felt so disoriented, moving on instinct alone as he dove into a roll. Blue's arms flung forward, catching himself on the dirt and flopping awkwardly flat. Something heavy and hard came down on his leg, and he let out a cry of pain as he rolled sideways, scrambling to get back to his feet. The moblin was gone, a bokoblin in its place, delighted to have made some contact with its club, and swinging a second time. He leapt backwards, and winced as his leg threatened to give out at the motion. Okay, maybe this was a really bad idea, he thought as he jumped and slammed his sword over the monster. Pain ricocheted up his leg again. Probably best not to jump so much, which went against his personal preferred style of fighting. Whatever, he could make do. As soon as he finished slaying the bokoblin, he headed for another bokoblin just a few feet away. Green huffed in frustration as the Stalfos was no longer there, gone in a blink. No matter, there was a bokoblin ahead. He tore through it in several blows, then moved to help Wind, cornered by several more. "Thanks," Wind called out as another bokoblin fell. Suddenly, where there had been a bokoblin, there was Wind coming into view. Blue startled, already swinging his sword as Wind leapt backwards with a yelp of alarm. "Watch where you're swinging that thing," he shouted as he sprinted back into fray. Heart hammering from the near miss, Blue began to search to turn the field for... Green grit his teeth as everything shifted a little again. "Just focus on what's there," he told himself. Lizalfos was fast approaching. Time to focus on that, and on giving Sky a quick hand. He grabbed his boomerang and chucked it at the choo-choo, preparing to make a leap at Sky, who looked almost as though he were dancing as he ducked and dodged multiple strikes of a very peeved-looking moblin. Legend slashed at the stunned choo-choo as he ran by, satisfied that Sky could manage otherwise. As Green's hand raised in preparation to catch his boomerang, he jumped back out of the way of the Lizalfos' first attack. Red let out a cry as pain shot up his leg, hand dropping to grab it as he lurched backwards, only to get smacked in the face by, his boomerang? He scrambled to grab it before it fell to the ground, and as he lowered the weapon from his vision, he was met with the axed tail of a Lizalfos swinging towards him. Throwing himself back onto the ground, he didn't quite avoid the painful slice of the weapon across his chest, but at least he didn't have an axe blade embedded in his side. He kicked up the grass as he turned and started running blindly. "I need to get out of here. We need to get out of here." Oh, fantastic. Nearly tripping with unexpected momentum, Via managed to recover and did a quick 180 the moment he heard swords clanging, comrades and enemies shouting around him. Of all the places to end up. Fighting as they were was a terrible idea. Theo darted past Elizalphos, slicing at its tail as he went, hoping to break out of the area of battle and into a place where switching through the colors would be less likely to be a death sentence. He was already hurting in multiple places. Things were not going well. His plan changed, however, when he saw a moblin raising a large spear in Time's direction, while the man was already busy defending from 2 Stalfos. "Time!" Theo shouted as he dove between the moblin's legs, giving it a good smack on the knee as he came out of his roll to distract it so Time could turn, sword swinging with great momentum, to slice through the monster. Theo smashed through the Stalfos that was recovering from Time's previous strike, and struck the other one to give the old man a bigger window to finish off the moblin before returning to take care of the Stalfos. He didn't make it much farther before a blue bokoblin jumped at him, slamming something that looked more like a butcher's knife than a sword into the ground as he dodged out of the way. It looked like he'd have to fight his way off this battlefield. The bokoblin parried his strike, and Theo's head rang with the blade. Grimacing, he swung his sword again and again, ignoring the rattling in his skull each time he was blocked until he finally managed to get a strike in. Taking advantage of that, he continued to press his enemy with fast blows. The bokoblin hit the ground, and he raised his sword for a final strike. Blue turned to scan the field, only for his brain to alert him that he'd looked past something very important. There was probably also a reason his sword was in the air. He turned back to see a blue bokoblin quickly scrambling away and getting to its feet, so he rolled forward to close the distance, thrusting his sword forward as he came out of the roll. He heard someone shout, "4!" and turned just in time to raise his sword against something large and metallic. His sword was knocked straight from his hand, and the monster, some sort of Lizalphos by the looks of it, ducked behind a massive gauntlet, letting out a gurgling laugh. Ignoring the way his head spun, he took off after his sword. Something hot looked at his heels, and Red squeaked, trying to pick up speed, but he was starting to bend down for some reason, and it was only as he saw the glint of the foresword in the grass that he realized why. As he fumbled to scoop it up, he couldn't help but notice the crack seemed bigger. Risking a glance backwards showed him flaming grass and a reptilian foe coming at him fast. "Roll to the side! Out of the way!" his brain shouted, his muscle tensed to follow, and Theo faltered as the world in front of him changed again. Something was coming towards him, and he prepared to thrust his sword forward, hoping to stab whatever it was before it could stab him, and there was a blur in front of Green, and he tried to raise his sword on instinct to block whatever was coming, but it didn't make a difference. Something spiky attached to something green tore into his side, knocking him back several feet as all air seemed to leave his lungs. If there had even been a little bit of oxygen left, that was ripped from him the moment he hit the ground. He skid across the grass, body curling up, muscles locking, and mouth parting silently as he tried to get his lungs working again. He heard a shout of alarm. Sky, he was pretty sure. Blue sucked in a stuttering breath, legs jerking uselessly in the grass. Someone was shouting their name, and it hurt to breathe. Still, he fought to sit up, only for something to slam into the side of his head, and it had been 2 hours, and 4 still hadn't woken up. Hyrule had done what he could to stabilize him, but they were out of fairies. Wild, Legend, and Wind had already gone searching, and there was nothing they could do but wait. "I should have gone to help him sooner," Sky said somberly. He caught a glimpse of the smith getting smacked in the face by his own boomerang, which had struck him as odd, but the Skyloftian had been occupied, and when he saw 4 on the move and seeming relatively all right, he hadn't done anything. It was only once he spotted a Lizalphos from his own time sneaking up on him that he thought it was best if he go lend a hand. It was an enemy the others hadn't faced yet, while Sky already had a relatively quickly way of dispatching them. But there had been so many monsters in the way, and he hadn't been able to get there in time, and his friend's sword was knocked from his hand, as 4 was struck to the ground. Legend's boomerang was what had kept the Lizalphos from pounding the small boy to dust, and the veteran had helped Sky get him off the field and to the town's inn. Legend, able to run faster, had gone back to get Hyrule. Hyrule had insisted Sky return to help the others while he took care of 4, but by the time Sky had returned, there had been a lot of smoking grass and a meager amount of monsters left. Apparently, seeing one of their comrades go down and get rushed off the battlefield had brought warriors to the decision of taking slightly more drastic measures. Despite shouting a warning for everyone to duck, a few of the heroes had still been lightly scorched by the trail of fire the captain had sent across the battlefield. "It's not your fault. I shouldn't have let him fight to begin with," Warrior said, not even trying to dodge Legend's attempt at wiping the soot off his cheek. The vet had been rounding the room, wiping smoky residue and dirt off of everything that had gotten messy from the battle, and even off of things that didn't seem to have a mark on them. I knew he'd been out of sorts. It's not in you either. We all knew, Time said gruffly, arms folded as he stared at the smith, lying quiet and still on the bed. He almost hit me in battle, Wynne said, fiddling with the joy pendant around his neck as he watched Legend begin scrubbing off his already spotless shield. Just swung a sword at me out of the blue. Looked as surprised as I felt. Do you think he meant to? Legend asked. I just said he looked surprised, Wynne said, mouth scrunching up at the question. Four wouldn't do that. I wouldn't normally think he would, but he punched me earlier and then acted surprised about it before punching me again. It was really weird. The sailor's eyes widened like saucers. Do you think he's been possessed? There was an unsettling silence in the room, with no one refuting the theory, before Twilight finally spoke up. Possessed by what, though? There haven't been any monsters outside the usual stuff lately. A sudden cry from the bed had everyone's attention moving to Four as his fist moved through the air, thrusting an invisible sword at an enemy no longer there. Whoa there, easy buddy, fight's over, Wilde assured him. You're safe. He blinked and began to sit up, warriors reaching to help him. His gaze swept the room, seemingly counting heads and relaxing a little once he saw everyone else was accounted for. Everyone's all right, he murmured to himself. But you're not, Wilde said flatly. You were out for a long time, Hyrule added. I did what I could, but... Before Hyrule could finish his sentence, Four suddenly started to throw himself sideways off the bed. With a noise of alarm, Twilight dove and barely caught the boy from slamming himself into the ground. What are you doing? Legend said in alarm as Twilight righted him. I thought I was... Four stammered, looking around the room with wide eyes. Just a second ago, there was... Oh, it's gone. What did you see? Warriors asked gently. Nothing, Four said quickly. I'm just not on the battlefield anymore, and I, forgot? Concern filled Warrior's features. Wait, no, I didn't forget. I just, Four backpedaled before hissing and gripping his head. Drink this, Warrior said, uncorking a red potion and holding it out. This should help you feel better. Four took the potion and lifted it to its mouth, tipping his head back as he began to drink it while Warrior's hands hovered nearby. About halfway through, he suddenly choked and began coughing, and Warriors managed to grab the bottle before the boy dropped it. For a third time, the smith glanced around the room like it was new to him, smacking at his chest as he coughed. Once he calmed the coughing, his cheeks colored at everyone staring. Let me finish the rest, he muttered, holding his hands back out for the potion. The captain hesitated, but handed it over, watching attentively as he finished it off. Do you feel better now? Wind asked. How's your head feeling? Do you want some water? Sky offered. Less people, Four said. It's too much. Your head still hurts? Warriors asked as he waved a hand at the others, who began to file out of the room. Save for Time, who stood back, watching quietly. Legend hesitated at the doorframe, looking back at Four like he had words sitting on the edge of his tongue. Four nodded as Warrior's question before he suddenly flinched and gasped, then looked around the room wildly, eyes landing on Warriors, then Legend, then Time. Where are the others? Legend and Warriors exchanged wide-eyed glances. Don't just look at each other, spit it out, Four snarled. What happened in the battle? Is everyone okay? Everyone's just fine, Time said, holding up his hands. Calm down. Getting worked up with a head injury won't do you any good. Mood swings and confusion are signs of concussion, Warrior said, gently grabbing Four's face and turning it towards him to check his eyes, who tried to swat him away, lips curling in irritation. If that's the case, he has had a concussion since yesterday night, Legend said. I already told Wilde we didn't hit our head yesterday, Four snapped. We? Warriors repeated. Four looked at him blankly. We what? You said we didn't hit our head yesterday. No, I didn't, Four replied. Time came over to Warriors and murmured in his ear. Ever seen anything like this? The captain had seen a lot of concussions and other injuries in his lifetime, but the man shook his head, looking just as lost as Time felt. Four blinked, glancing around the room with narrowed eyes, then sighed. I need help fixing my sword. It needs fixing? Legend asked. He nodded, expression serious. It's got a crack, and it needs to be fixed as soon as possible. So that's why you wanted my stuff, Legend murmured. All right, Warrior said, once you've rested up a bit more. Rest won't fix this, Four replied, voice urgent. He paused, then let out an exasperated sigh. There's a reason, and I'd like to tell you, and I will if I can. Huh? Give me some paper and something to write with, please, Four told him before he suddenly began speaking very quickly. No, actually, I've gotten cut off too many times. I need you to write something for me. Write, tell them everything. Yes, no. Then keep having a conversation with me. Every time I cut off or seem confused by what's going on, make me pick one of those and put a tally by it. Put down one mark by yes for now. Warriors' brows furrowed. Please, Four said. If you say so, he replied, finding some paper and a pen and starting to write what he'd been instructed to write. What are you writing? Four asked, a deep frown on his face as he shifted to peer at Warriors. He glanced up at Four, confused. Obviously I'm writing what you... Oh. Okay, hold on a second. The captain finished writing and then held up the paper. You told me to tell you to pick one? Oh, Four said as he read the paper, then sighed and grumbled. I should have thought of that. I pick yes, too. I'm sick of this. He marked down another tally while Legend said, You also told us to keep you talking. Of course I did, he muttered, pressing the tips of his fingers on his temples as hard as he could. Laid out a whole plan, I bet. He's going to be so pleased when this works, because I bet it'll work now that we don't have anywhere to be. He who? Legend questioned. What? You said he, the teen reminded. No, but who what? Four asked. You just said who. They stared at each other for a moment, and Warriors reached out silently to hold the paper in front of Four's face. His attention moved to the page, then brightened a little. Oh, finally! I've been hoping we could sort this out, because this has not been going well. Yes. As Warriors marked down another tally, Four said, Alrighty, 3, huh? Good, that just means we need... When the boys stopped talking, Warriors said, Need what? The response was a long, annoyed, Ugh! This again? Stupid mid-conversational. Warriors offered him the paper, and the smith smacked it away. I already voted. Four watched the captain pick up the paper he'd knocked from his hands, expression starting with narrowed eyes and an annoyed scowl, but switching to something more curious partway through. He looked down at his hands for a moment, then at the empty potion bottle on the table next to the bed. After letting out a small, huh, sound, he refocused on Warriors. What you got there? You already voted? Warriors said hesitantly, glancing at Legend and Time, who both shrugged in unison. With a sigh, Warriors offered the paper to Four again, this time a bit more cautiously. Four read the page, and then brightened, a smile lighting up his face. Oh, yes! Oh, finally we're all on the same page. Literally. He giggled, and whispered. Oh, Green would have loved that one. Four, please explain what this is all about, Warrior said. Why am I even doing this? What is this all for? Four clapped his hands, a little gleeful. Well, now I can tell you. He stopped suddenly, hands pressed together. The paper. Let me see it. Lips pressed tightly together, Warriors held the paper out. 4 votes, all yes. Good. I'd wring my neck if any part of me still thought the answer should be no. He muttered, pinching the bridge of his nose. Ugh, my head. Okay. I might get cut off. If I do, remind me succinctly of what I've already told you. There's a reason the Four Sword is called the Four Sword. 4 votes, Legend suddenly blurted. By the goddesses, you're... Split into 4 people, Four said with a nod. Oh. I was going to say possessed by 4 spirits that live in the sword or something, but... Legend paused, face crinkling. How are you split into 4 if you're 1? If I'm 1 what? Four asked. Person? Warriors quickly jumped in. You said the Four Sword splits you into 4. There was a pause as Four seemed to contemplate this for a moment. And what did you ask, Legend? How you're split into 4 when you're 1, he said, looking a little impatient as he crossed his arms. Oh, well, usually I would be 4. 4 people or 4 the singular person? Four snorted. 4 people. At least if I was intending to be. Are you not intending to be 4 people right now? Are you kidding me? I'd love to be back together. This has been a nightmare. Four threw his hands into the air with a frustrated huff. So what is happening? Time asked. The Four Sword makes me 4 inside and outside, but it's cracked, so now I'm only 1 inside, Four said. They all stared at him. Wait, so you're not 4 right now? His brow furrowed. What did I tell you? That the sword makes you 4 in and out, but now that it's cracked, you're only 1? Warriors told him, confusion clear in his tone. Four rolled his eyes and heaved a sigh. Blue is the worst at explaining stuff. Blue? Did they tell you about him? 4 asked curiously. Him? Blue is a person? A meanie is what he is. Don't tell him I said this, but that guy's a total bully, 4 suddenly erupted. I bet he's the one who punched you. I bet all my rupees on that, and then keep my winnings all to myself when I won. He pouted, smacking lightly at the bed. I don't know how I'd do that when they'd be his too, but... Can we get back to this whole 4 thing, please? Legend said. Did we ever leave it? Nods all around. The sword can make me 4 people, though they're all still me. Pieces of me. The problem is... A beat of silence. Then, where was I? You were explaining the problem, Warrior said. Presuming I corrected you, Legend, that I am not possessed by sword spirits, 4 said. The problem is that, though I should have access to all 4 parts of myself at once, But I'll figure it out somehow. His demeanor changed as his fists clenched in determination. Figure what out? How to keep the rupees mine? But Warriors floundered, the problem. Oh, right, the problem. Imagine if you were going to make a cake, and you've got all your ingredients out. You've got eggs, flour, butter, and sugar. You forgot something to leaven it with, Legend pointed out. Well, forget that for now, because there are only 4 of us, so only 4 ingredients, 4 said with a wave of his hand. So, usually you could mix them all together and you'd have a cake, right? The cake is 4, us, Link, total. So, all the ingredients combined make Link, Time said with a nod. And when the cake ingredients are uncombined, that's when you're 4 separate parts of yourself? 4, who had made a small noise partway through Time's sentence before cutting himself off, said, Cake ingredients? 4 cake ingredients combined equals the whole Link, Time said shortly. Uncombined equals 4 separate things, but still what makes up the whole, correct? Huh. Red picked a good analogy this time. Yes, to continue his analogy, there should be either the full cake mixed and baked, or 4 ingredients sitting out together. Right now, there's only 1 ingredient at a time. We have no access to the memories of what the other person is doing while in charge of our body. So, you're a 4th of 4 right now? Legend said. A blink. Sorry, rewind a little? You're a 4th of 4 right now. Snapping his finger, 4 pointed to Legend with excitement. Yes, finally! Did we make it to the conclusion then? Do you guys get it? I think so, Warriors replied. The sword is the problem then? Yes, 4 said with a firm nod. This only started when the sword got cracked. I need help repairing it, especially when I... Keep doing that? Legend asked flatly when 4 abruptly cut off again. Doing what? 4 asked, teeth grinding. Cutting off. I don't know the context. I don't know what we're talking about. Just help me fix the stupid sword, 4 shouted. All right, calm down, Warrior said. We'll help you fix the sword. Are you Blue? Legend asked. Huh? Yeah, how'd you know? One of the others described you briefly. He said you were a meanie. What? Blue sat up straighter, fisting the sheets. And what was the other thing he said? Legend tilted his head in thought as Warrior sighed. Right, he said that you were a bully. 4 stared at Legend, distraught before wailing. I told you not to tell him I said that! Oh, whoops, Legend said, not sounding particularly apologetic. Welcome back. 30 minutes later, everyone was gathered in the field, the situation having been explained. It should have taken half the time had 4 not kept trying to interrupt to explain something better, only to forget what he was explaining, or if the others hadn't kept trying to ask questions about how it worked, leading to the exact same problem. Whoa there, absolutely not, Legend said, taking the cracked sword from 4. You get to watch. What? But I'm a smith. This is my... Legend looked at him unimpressed. You can't even finish your sentences. Wait, why are you holding the sword? Because I'm going to be the one directing this time. I trained under a smith. I can do this much, Legend said. You can do what much? Be in charge of fixing the sword, Legend replied, patience rapidly dwindling. Whoa, no way! 4 lunged for Legend, who held the sword high in the air. That's my sword. How can I even trust you to fix it right? Legend let out an exasperated sigh. Twilight, hold him. The man stepped forward and grabbed the boy, holding him back with ease. No amount of thrashing would free him now. Wait, what's going on? What did I do? 4 suddenly asked, no longer thrashing. You know, this really does explain a lot, Twilight said. No kidding, Wild replied. Is he the one in charge of fixing my sword? Wait, but You're the smith, yes we know, warriors replied, fire rod at the ready. With Legend keeping the sword in place and giving directions, Hyrule wielded the ice rod this time. Wind once again had the hammer. Let me go, it's my job to fix it, Four snarled. You almost hit me with your sword, Wind called out. I don't think you should be trusted with this right now. You weren't supposed to be there when I started swinging. Ignoring him, Legend started to give directions to the helpers, and Four was left with no choice but to watch. Every so often, he'd suddenly call out some sort of complaint or order, but everyone had already decided it was best to ignore whatever he said for now, especially when some of the instructions, "Hammer it now," came after that step was already finished and they moved on to the next step. It probably wasn't as perfect as their resident smith could do, that is, when he was all together, but it could do well enough to fix the damage. Froh could always improve it later if he wanted, but as it was, Legend thought it was turning out rather well. Easy, easy, Legend said. All right, stop. Let go of the sword, Four blurted urgently as the blade shimmered slightly. This time, Legend listened, dropping it like a hot potato and holding up his hands. Is it good? Is it done? All eyes moved to look at Four. The boy was staring at the ground, brow furrowed. Slowly, his cheeks turned pink and he ran a hand over his face. So that's why I must have looked insane, he said, then added, I knew it was him. Are you, back to normal? Twilight asked. Four nodded, and the man let him go. Sorry for putting all of you through that mess, Four said sheepishly. If it's all right, we'd all like to introduce ourselves more properly. Go ahead, Time said as everyone else nodded. There was anticipatory silence as Four walked over and picked up the Four sword, examining it briefly before closing his eyes. The sword glowed with multiple colors before there were suddenly 4 fours, all in different colored tunics. There really are 4 of you, Warrior said with an incredulous laugh. Whoa! Wind's eyes jumped from one color to the next. That's so cool! Huh, so that's why your tunic is so colorful, Sky remarked. I always thought you just had an odd taste in fashion. It's not odd, it's meaningful, the one in the red tunic defended. The green one stepped forward. You can call me Green. That's red, that's blue, and that's Vio. Not purple? Wind asked. Purple sounds pretty silly, Vio said. Vio is short for violet. Now, Green turned to Blue, grabbing him by the shoulders and pushing him towards Legend, who was staring at them all with an oddly pale complexion. Apologize. What? But I already did. That was hardly a proper apology, Vio said. Blue huffed, arms folding as he looked away. I'm sorry, he gritted out. It's fine, Legend said, voice a bit fast. We're even anyways. Even? Vio asked curiously. Because you hit him back, you mean? Yeah, the veteran replied softly, eyes falling to the ground. That's what I meant. Of all the people to be so shell-shocked by this, I wouldn't have thought it to be him, Green whispered to Vio, who shrugged. So, when you all go back together, do you remember all of this at once? Wild asked. Vio nodded. Yes, our memories all come together collectively. It was really weird the first time. Green cut himself off and suddenly turned around. Red, put that down. Red slowly set the fire rod back down with a pout. Won't let me do anything fun, he grumbled. Hyrule and Wild exchanged intrigued looks at that, the former murmuring, Wait, so Four's got an arsonist inside of him? No, Twilight immediately said. Do not try to recruit him into your antics. I want to be recruited, Red said. That is a terrible idea, Vio said, crossing his arms, even as he cast a small glance towards the fire rod. Green shook his head and turned back to finish. It was weird at first, dealing with everyone's memories at once, but we're used to it by now. Why did you hide this for so long? Warriors asked. I'm sure we've all seen and experienced our fair share of items with odd effects, Time said. Surely you didn't think we'd judge you for it. I didn't want to keep it a secret, Red said. Vio was the one who wanted it to stay a secret, Blue snapped. If you weren't so cagey needing some dramatic reveal, and it would all been up front, this wouldn't have been such a problem. I mean, it did turn out to be a dramatic reveal, Green remarked. You both agreed with my decision, Vio pointed out, his fingers curling over his crossed arms tighter, annoyance sparking in his expression. I would have acquiesced if more had been against me. Don't pin it all on me. A dramatic reveal did sound pretty fun, Green mumbled sheepishly. Well, I hope nearly getting us killed was dramatic enough. You're the one being dramatic now. You've nearly gotten us killed before by being so argumentative. It takes at least 2 to argue, genius. I missed this, Red sniffed, attempting to draw the others into a group hug. Green laughed as he tried to help wrangle the scowling Blue into the hug while Vio sighed as he was tugged into it. I know you missed us, Green teased Blue gently. Blue's cheeks flushed a little as he grumbled. Maybe a little. You too, Vio, right? Yes, Vio admitted, I did. Red pulled back from the hug with a big grin, and Blue immediately wriggled out of the group while Green laughed. Now that everything is fixed, Wild said, I think we're all due for some lunch. What's everyone in the mood for? The colors all spoke at once. I want a meat skewer. Can we have pumpkin soup? Some kind of spicy curry would be nice. That risotto you made before was really good. Wild blinked at the chorus of opinions and then started laughing. It's the skewers all over again, he wheezed, but double the answers. Vio sighed. How about we all combine and someone else picks what we eat? Red drooped. Aw, but we barely got to spend any time together like this. Wild shook his head with a grin as he started taking ingredients out of the bag. No, it's all right. I'm up for the challenge. We'll have a thank goodness 4 isn't dead or possessed banquet. Hear, hear, Sky said. A banquet includes dessert too, right? Hyrule said, brows raising hopefully. Wild snorted. Sugar addict. Sure, I'll make dessert. So what would happen if I used your sword? Wind asked as Hyrule tried to wheedle Wild into making honeyed fruits. Don't, all 4 colors said at once. You don't need to risk having 4 winds running around, Vio said. Ugh, no kidding, Legend muttered. It only seemed to make the sailor's eyes glimmer with the desire to do it all the more. I will sleep with my sword in my arms, Green said. Wind clicked his tongue. Boring. No one else is allowed to use the 4 sword, Time announced loudly. There was a concerning amount of grumbles of disappointment, and far too many eyes stealing glances at the swords 4 had. I bet 50 rupees someone tries to use our sword in the next 48 hours, Green whispered. I bet 50 that it will be in the next 24, Vio said. 100 rupees, 12 hours max, easy, Blue said. Actually, Red sniffed, lifting his chin up as he said, all of our rupees are mine. That doesn't even make any sense, Blue shouted. I bet you punched Legend and I was right, so they're mine, Red argued. You don't deserve them. You're the one who called me a meanie and a bully, Blue growled. Don't think I don't know about that. Why didn't you think you could secretly get away with it when I'd find out when we all combined? Well, you are a meanie and a bully, Red stomped his foot. Red's not entirely wrong, Vio remarked. Hey, don't gang up on me. But also, Blue is right in that it doesn't make sense for you to keep all the rupees, Green piped up. I mean, it's technically possible if we tried really hard, Vio said. No, it's not. It doesn't make any sense. You guys were literally making bets amongst yourselves 5 seconds ago, Red whined. You're all hypocrites. I can't believe he's literally arguing with himself, Sky remarked. Should we break it up? Twilight asked as Blue tackled Vio to the ground. No way, Legend said. I want to see him hit himself. Chapter notes. And so we come to a finish. I had so much fun writing this, and I'm glad it's gotten so much love. It seems you all enjoyed reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Also, I got fan art. It's for Chapter 3, and while I added it to the notes of that chapter, I didn't want already existing readers to miss it. You can see it here. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who commented and kudoed. I'm fortunate to have such lovely readers. Now drink some water, take your meds/vitamins if you need to, make sure to fuel your body with something good for you, and do some stretches/exercises. Unclench your jaw, take a breather, and go to bed if it's late, alright? You can come back to your fix tomorrow. And a little bonus of something, a small bit I cut because I couldn't find anywhere to put it. Do you want some time alone? He laughed, the sound pitched high, an incredulous sound that was something he hadn't had in a long time. And while he sometimes wished for it, it terrified him now that he had it. He didn't want so-and-so to be here with him, but he didn't want to be alone either. Thanks for reading, and feel free to come bug me on my Tumblr. And that is the end of A Problem with 4.